Hi everybody, it is November 19. We're almost at the end of November. Thanksgiving in just a few short days. Christmas coming up. The holiday season is here. Joy to the world. Hello everybody. I hope you're doing okay. Linty London, Mike Luft, hello. Sherry Hughes, thank you very, very, very much. And Matt Davis, so now I know. Donna Davidson, Cynthia Johnston, Cecilia Amarati, hi. Hi, just teasing, okay? Excuse me. God bless you, Carol. Thank you. Just teasing, okay? Well, that's a username. I wasn't just saying just teasing, okay? Scott Mowery, Patricia White, Something to Chew On, Amber Eyes, Jack Howard, Rick Yorkin. Hello, everybody. Tomorrow night I go back to Never Lose Truth 1. Hello, Itena and Rick Yorkin. So, if you're new here and you don't know that I have another channel, Never Lose Truth 1, I go back and forth each time I get a community guideline strike from Google, and, well, Google grounds me for a week or 2 weeks. So I'm going to be going back to Never Lose Truth 1. And for whatever reason, Never Lose Truth 1, I can actually now watch YouTube videos. Never do I see it, well, for today, have I seen any of that, get rid of your ad blocker, refresh, but it's still happening on Never Lose Truth 5. Who's to know? And I had an inadvertent mistake. I inadvertently clicked off an entire window. It was about 10 minutes before going live, and I very quickly went to history and I pulled up all of the information. That it's not all of it, and it's not terribly organized, but hey, we do the best we can. We bring our best self to life. And sometimes the best looks awful. It feels awful. It's awful. It just is what it is. Oracle 11, Carol, hello. Super Painting 62, The Hypocrite's Matrix. Hi guys. Amber Eyes, did I say hello to you? If not, a big hello. So, Dubai is sinking. The worst flood and storms in the United Arab Emirates. Airports, schools closed. Desert. Wow.
Heavy rains with thunder, wind and lightning hit the United Arab Emirates at around 5 a.m. The Dubai Roads and Transport Authority has issued the flood warning on the Emirates' main highway, Sheikh Zayed Road. School children were transferred to distance learning. The authorities advised the heads of organizations to show flexibility to employees that is allow them to work from home. Dubai police have issued an emergency notice urging motorists to stay away from areas that may be subject to flooding. Abbott due to the rainy weather and observe speed limits.
Who controls the world? Wait. Who controls the weather controls the world. But I just want you to see, all right, this is a video on Dubai. I read the title. This is pretty much the same video, Dubai. Shocking. See how Dubai is devoured by water. It's the wrath of God. It's the wrath of God. See, this is when religion takes people into delusional land, refusing to see the reality of man controlling the weather. It pisses me off. Rio do Sol is sinking. I love these titles. Yeah, superstorms, major floods, submerge millions of homes and cars.
Perigoso esse carro entrar ali, ó. E vai entrar o carro. O carro foi pro rio. O carro foi pro rio.
The crazy storm in Santa Catarina caused damage between the end of Thursday night and the early hours of Friday, November 17, 2023. Cities in the western part of the state and in the Itajaí Valley, which contains important and densely populated cities such as Chapico, Blumenau, and Rio do Sul, were the most badly affected due to flooding, fallen trees and collapsed roofs, with hail also occurring in some areas. The rain caused flooding and death in Santa Catarina. 2 people died and 23 cities in the state declared a state of emergency. The residents took shelter on roofs waiting for help. Almost every sub-district had a flood point. Housewife Adrienne Souza and her children rushed to leave the house. We took off clothes just to use them, but the furniture, everything, there was no way to take it off, he said. On one of the few water-free streets in the Canoes neighborhood, one of the worst-hit streets in the city, cars were safe, but homes were underwater. In another incident that occurred almost a month ago, we helped these people. They had almost 20 people at home and many children, recalls electrician Gregory da Silva. In Tayo, 50 kilometers from Rio do Sul, 2 women drowned. Their car entered a flooded area and eventually sank. 2 other passengers were rescued. A slope collapsed on one of Concordia's main roads in the west of the state, hitting 2 companies. 20 streets in Santa Catarina had sections of traffic blocked. This is the case of SC 135, where water destroyed the line near the municipality of Pinheiro Preto. 3 federal highways were also closed. The state government estimates that rains in October and November have caused losses of 5 billion Brazilian reals. Meanwhile, the Alfredo João Creek Municipal Stadium in Rio do Sul, SC, was covered in rainwater on Thursday. In the last 48 hours, accumulation in the city reached 191.9 millimeters. The field and parts of the stands were flooded. The room is in the Canoes neighborhood and belongs to Santa Catarina Clube, the team that won the Catarinense Championship Series C in 2022. This was the 5th flood in the area in less than a month, according to the team's statement on social media. There were days full of cleaning and work, and now we are again shocked by the water. The stadium is very close to the banks of the Itajaí River, which is classified as an emergency situation by the Civil Defense. From Wednesday to Thursday morning, the water level was around 5.8 meters. As of this afternoon, the water level had risen to 12.5 meters. Much of the city was flooded, and some residents had to be rescued from their homes by firefighters, posts on social media showed. According to INMET, National Meteorological Service, the region has a high storm warning. The recommendation is to turn off electrical equipment and public power sources, put documents and valuables in plastic bags, and avoid being outdoors. The accumulated rainfall in the city was 103.2 millimeters on Thursday at the meter installed on the Don Tito bus bridge, plus 14.6 millimeters on Wednesday and another 15.8 millimeters at the same location. Was for a volume of 40 millimeters.
If I'm not mistaken, this is Colombia. Santa Catarina is in Colombia. Am I right? I believe I am. But I'm hedging just in case. It's amazing what's happening. Massive flooding taking place all over. All over. Come on, internet provider. Do what you're supposed to do. Yes, frustration mounts. So, parts of the Appalachian Trail are closed. Let's click off these. Let's click off the wrath of God. And parts of the Appalachian Trail closed as wildfires rage across the United States Southeast. Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, experiencing severe drought and wildfires. Don't look into weather modification and geoengineering. Do not stretch your brain at all. Just listen to your government officials. Listen to the mainstream media reporters tell you it's all about climate change. Wonder how many animals they're killing with this fire. Well, they don't seem to be able to put it out. Wildfire in North Carolina mountains, sparked by Interstate 40 crash. What? Interstate 40 crash. This was posted yesterday. Wildfire. Okay, a new wildfire in Waynesville, North Carolina. If you've never driven I-40 through Tennessee and North Carolina, it can get pretty crazy. And those trucks are just whizzing by. Fire began 9 a.m. Thursday in Haywood County. Tractor trailer overturned westbound lanes near the Tennessee border. That's exactly where I'm talking about. Wow. This is just coming into me, so I'm doing a very quick read. Black bear. Huh. Wow. Meanwhile, the Collette Ridge fire was sparked by a lightning strike. October 23rd, burned 5,505 acres, 82% contained. So that was going for about a month. Just shy of a month. Okay, well, reduce your emissions. That's the answer to all of this weather, all of the weather disasters. Reduce your emissions. Get rid of any cow you have because they fart. Get rid of your SUV. Don't drive. Don't get another car. Just walk and bike everywhere. Stop breathing so much because exhaling CO2. Get rid of all of your trees. Oh, wait. That trees actually soak up the CO2. Well, you You know the deal, okay? You know the deal. Just do the deal. So, Brussels is telling 12 member states, you better reduce your emissions within 2 months, or face the consequences. Wow. Luxembourg, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Ireland, Cyprus, Latvia, Lithuania, Hungary, Austria, Portugal, Sweden, for failing to ensure the correct implementation of their commitments to reduce several air pollutants as required by an EU directive. And they're going to sick the Court of Justice of the European Union on you if you don't comply. They're going to refer the case to the Court of Justice of the European Union. You might want to think of getting out of the European Union. Fast. Migrants plunge into Rio Grande.
Immigration judges and the ACLU oppose that new Texas legislation. But what you're looking at is why those legislators passed that bill. The flood of migrants continues, and today the human struggle of those looking for a better life was on full display on the southern border, and only News Nation was there to see it. News Nation's Allie Bradley is live for us in Eagle Pass, Texas, where migrants have been crossing fast-moving waters all day long. Allie, you even saw a mother and baby trying to make it cross that river. How did it end?
Yeah, Elizabeth, that mother, just one of hundreds of migrants taking that dangerous plunge into the Rio Grande with the hopes of getting into the United States. We watched chaos unfold all morning, and it's happening every single day. Sweeping immigration legislation headed to Governor Abbott's desk for his signature. SB 4 will allow any local law enforcement to arrest people crossing into Texas illegally. But desperation is frequently much stronger than the threat of arrest. The human element on full display. We watched as an unconscious man was carried out of the water by a group of migrants. They worked to resuscitate him. Moments later, applause and an embrace, visibly relieved that he's okay. Another man rescued by Texas DPS and Florida Wildlife Commission officers. You see his lifeless body lying there in front of a toddler. They're yelling at the crowd to stay back. At one point, the little boy even raises his hand to signal stop. The officers work to revive him. Moments later, relief. He's okay.
He's standing right now. He's standing right now.
FWC officers have been deployed down to the southern border for months now. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sent them here in support of Texas Governor Abbott's mission to secure the border. Those officers take the high ground in the mornings now to help signal the boat operators of people in distress or children coming across. Gut-wrenching moments as a mom nearly loses her baby in the swift Rio Grande. It's band together, drown, or go back at this point. They form a human chain as the rope isn't long enough. The first time they've used this tactic during the recent surge. One that became a problem as the rope was literally pulling them down. Texas DPS cuts the rope and pulls it back into the boat. Once the migrants are more than halfway through the river, they're technically in the United States, so Border Patrol has to respond to apprehend them. But they didn't. Instead, the migrants huddled along the riverbanks begging for water and dry clothes, some needing even more. Texas DPS medics on scene. This 22-year-old woman from Venezuela tells me the bus she was riding in Mexico flipped over. She was trapped and as a result had to have her arm amputated and was left with third-degree burns to her face and body. Despite that, when I asked her if she regretted coming, she said no, it was still worth it. Now, Elizabeth.
Still worth it. Wow. Okay, I interrupt this message to say happy birthday, Amelia. I did see your comment. Happy birthday. Congratulations. 60 years old and you're a great-grandmother. Wow. Wow. I just get the hunch that you have a close family. Like, oh, there might be dysfunction in it or whatever. But you have, like a family, a real family. I hope that's the case. I really hope that's the case. And good. Congratulations and happy birthdays are coming in to Amelia. Very nice. Oh boy. Can't believe I'm going to be 65. 65. It's coming up. Wow, man, how did that happen? How did that happen? Okay. So, just want to point out, I watch a lot of foreign shows, foreign movies, because I can't travel. But I've always been fascinated with different cultures and people from different walks of life. And, what the propaganda that we get, especially with like countries of El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, all these migrants, they're fleeing their countries because they just can't make it. The economy, finances, that is not reason. That's not a qualification for asylum, but I guess now it is. But it's almost like every country is pretty much the same. They have their middle class, they have their very wealthy, they've got their corruption, they've got their poor. But for some reason, we are really programmed to believe that there are countries out there and all of the people are just poor and they're all, walking without shoes and carrying water or living in huts. And no. Look at this. This is Guatemala. Michael Yan. Guatemala now. See to believe. Now, when you see all of these people coming from these countries, and they're fleeing the violence, they're fleeing the economy, they're fleeing.
Festival, and there was very few foreigners there, and mostly indigenous Mayan people and that sort of thing. Here we are again in very impoverished Guatemala. You wouldn't believe how rich this place is, and it's not just one little spot. And so actually Guatemala is, out of all the countries I've been to and been surprised by, add this to the list of surprises. There is a lot of wealth. We were in another city earlier today called Antigua, and there was mostly indigenous people. They were having a flower festival, and there was very few foreigners there, and mostly indigenous Mayan people and that sort of thing. We saw some Mennonites, interestingly. We saw 3 or 4, and but otherwise it was such a nice town. It's very beautiful and safe, and there was actually a guy from Florida there running a little restaurant. We went in there to get a coffee, and it turns out the guy that owns it's from Florida. That was another surprise, from North Florida, and he was a real Floridian too, not somebody who just got there. We talked for quite a while. Yep. So this is the Great Poverty. Hello. Say hello to the world.
Hello. This is much better than Tokyo. It's clean, safe, and gorgeous, and I don't feel any like people are just enjoying Christmas, and we don't see any rainbow flags.
Yeah. Well, Jackie is from here.
Yeah. Hello. Well, I'm honored to hear you say that it's better than. Yeah. But I'm very proud to be a Guatemalan citizen. And I hope that you have liked all the places that we have here, and that you feel safe and happy.
Thank you. And by the way, they have incredible restaurants and the best steaks I've seen almost anywhere in the world. It's up there with Colombia and up there actually with Japan on steaks. It's unbelievable, which is pretty hard to do. America has great steaks too, especially Florida, but this place really takes the cake, especially for the prices.
Okay, so if you can't travel by plane, and many of you probably don't want to anymore, travel by YouTube, by Netflix, by whatever, and check out other countries because, yeah, what we get here is constant, oh, look, you Americans have it so much better. We don't. We don't. But we're propagandized to believe that we do. So, and that woman said, and they don't have any rainbow flags. After Friday footage dump, GOP senator calls for investigation. Cheney, Kinzinger, and sham J6 committee under fire. Well, look, these videos have been coming out. Americans don't care. They don't care that they have political prisoners who are actually, many of them, sitting in isolation, solitary confinement for doing absolutely nothing. The whole thing was literally, a fabulous, staged and orchestrated insurrection by the feds, Nancy Pelosi, and all of them. Yeah. What? Yeah. Look at this. I mean, all right, here are more videos showing that there was no insurrection, that the Capitol Police were actually letting the protesters in. This one, a protester is uncuffed by Capitol Police and then fist bumps another officer down a hallway away from everyone. Oh, so the Capitol Police, they were pretending to arrest people. They were pretending to handcuff people, and then they take them in a secluded area. Don't they understand that there are cameras all over? And if there are cameras all over, and of course there are, because that's the Capitol, okay? So surveillance, yeah, you might find a corner somewhere on some floor where you can avoid being seen. But yes, surveillance cameras all over the Capitol. And isn't it funny that they just never really released footage of that day? Did Americans demand it? No. They just believed. They believed what their side was telling them. My team, Nancy Pelosi, told me there was an insurrection. So, that's all I need to know. All I need to know. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yay. Unbelievable. Here. Ah, yes. Capitol Police. And here come the protesters. The Capitol Police are leading the way for the protesters. Yeah, these are the terrorists. They look terroristic, don't they? They look like little terrorists. Especially that woman with that red blinder on, whatever you call those caps, those things. Yes, they all look very mean. Yeah. They all look bad. Get them. Throw them in solitary confinement. How dare they? Especially that woman who looks older holding her camera, I guess filming. Oh, wow. And all of them. Did you see all of the rifles they're carrying? All of the weaponry they're carrying? Look at that flagpole. My God, they're just letting them through. Look at that. How bad of a insurrection. It was really bad. coming through. Open the doors, coming through. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. There they go. Wow. What violence. What horrible, horrible violence. My God. It's painful to watch, isn't it? It's painful. I mean, what have Americans become? How dare they walk into the Capitol? How dare they walk into Congress like this? Like, you'd think they owned it. You'd think that those who work there are their servants. You'd think they were like paying the checks of the people who work in the Capitol. How dare they walk around like this? And you can tell the police are really trying to stop them. Yep. Funny how they're just releasing this footage now, 3 years later. But Americans, they get caught up in the drama for, a period of time, and then they just don't care. So, 3 years later, they wouldn't even care. Oh, so what? It wasn't an insurrection. So what that they destroyed people's lives, calling them, potential terrorists, and they were trying to destroy democracy, and their lives got destroyed. But so what? Who cares? Didn't affect me. Shooter kills security guard before being fatally shot at New Hampshire Psychiatric Hospital. Another mass shooting. Another shooting. In the quiet New England states, we had Maine, we have New Hampshire. I'm sure there's been mass shootings in Vermont. Seems to be happening an awful lot these days.
More about the fatal shooting at a New Hampshire psychiatric hospital. A security guard there lost his life helping stop an armed gunman from getting into the building. 12 News reporter Christian Benavides has the latest on that investigation.
The 33-year-old gunman who walked into this psychiatric hospital in Concord, New Hampshire with an intent to kill was armed with a 9mm pistol and additional ammunition on hand. He entered the lobby, first encountering 63-year-old security officer Bradley Haas, who was unarmed. Haas was shot and killed. Officials say he saved lives.
He will now be remembered forever as a man who died protecting patients, staff, and visitors at New Hampshire Hospital.
The suspect, identified as John Medore, was transient according to authorities, most recently living out of a hotel. He was shot dead by a state trooper who was stationed at the hospital.
The state trooper who engaged the suspect was not hurt. Although I am not able to comment on the specifics of this investigation at this time, I am extremely proud of the trooper's actions that without a doubt prevented additional loss of life.
Out in the hospital's parking lot, officials say they discovered a running U-Haul where several items were recovered, including an AR-style rifle, tactical vest, and several magazines of ammunition. Detectives are looking for links between the suspect and that U-Haul.
So far, police say it's unclear why the suspect targeted that hospital. The investigation continues tonight.
Well, an article I read about it is that he was a patient at that hospital several months ago. Was he hearing voices? Yeah. We sure do have an awful lot of crazy people. Crazy. Being made, pushed into becoming violent. Oh yes, they do have the technology to do that. And I am telling you, teens killing people, teenagers, a whole lot of teenagers all over the country are killing people, killing classmates, killing their parents. Now, I'm not even going to play this, but I include it just to let you know that people are getting very violent. And yeah. Okay. Again, I've recommended that you check out Black Conservative Perspective. I will put his link in the chat. And he has what a whole lot of people who still have brains, they would refer to his perspective as common sense.
Decided to ban U.S. All right, guys, so we got to talk about this woke high school that decided to ban USA Day in school, okay? They're saying, no, you can't have a day celebrating the United States of America during Spirit Week because it's too controversial. Yes, celebrating the United States in school, having a day that is for students to express their patriotism, apparently, again, is too controversial and divisive and political to have in school. According to the woke administrators at the school, who are now issuing an apology after some base students showed up to school anyways with their patriotic gear and clothing on in protest of this woke high school essentially not allowing students to celebrate this country during Spirit Week. Now, this story takes place at Wesley High School out of Massachusetts. And I want to go ahead and roll the clip so you guys get a better understanding of what happened here. Take a look.
Developing tonight, the principal of Wellesley High School apologizing for telling kids America Day wasn't allowed for Spirit Week. Kids showed up in their red, white, and blue today anyway.
Boston 25 News reporter Daniel Coates is live outside Wellesley High tonight. And Daniel, this story came to us as a tip, and tonight the school admits calling this a bad idea was a mistake.
Well, guys, and the school tells me that the reasoning for not having this theme today was that it didn't match up with others from earlier on this week. On Tuesday, it was Tropical Tuesday, Wednesday, Western Wednesday, and technically today was Fitness Friday. But I have to tell you guys, we were on this corner as school was letting out, and plenty of students were wearing red, white, and blue, and even some parents as well. Friday afternoon was Fitness Day at Wellesley High, the school-wide theme for Day 5 of Spirit Week ahead of their Thanksgiving football game. But plenty of students celebrated a different theme, USA Freedom Day, draped in red, white, and blue, leaving the classroom.
The administration was not going to let this happen, and that this was not even a topic for discussion. It was not happening.
Olivia Spagnola is part of the Student Unification Program that decides the daily theme for students to match, telling us when they proposed USA Day, they were quickly shut down by teachers and school leaders.
It was not allowed because it separated people from each other at the school.
In a letter to students and parents, Wellesley's principal said they shut down this theme to avoid politics and still allowed students to wear their America-themed attire if they wanted. Students and some parents took them up on the offer.
I think it's absurd. I think it's sad and depressing.
We came here to experience all of that, so I'm really shocked that that's going on.
Michael's daughter is a student at the high school. His family moved to Wellesley from Australia.
We love the American dream, freedom, we're all for it. You know, I want my daughter to experience the full thing.
Students show.
You want your daughter to experience the full American dream? She will. Give her time. So will you. You can't celebrate America. You can celebrate other countries, and you can't celebrate your own. Too controversial? Do you think the takeover has taken over? I do. Let me put the link in because you can watch the full video. It's Massachusetts. Yeah, that state where, what was it? The first shot heard around the world? Please. I lived in Massachusetts for a long time. They were not about freedom. They were not about truth. They had no values. And I'm talking about my friends. They valued money. That's about it. California Democrat convention events canceled for the rest of Saturday night.
We're following breaking news right now in Sacramento. Minutes ago, we just learned California Democratic Convention events tonight are now canceled. Convention organizers tell KCRA3 there are safety and security concerns for delegates and convention participants that are out of their control. Officials wouldn't specify what those circumstances are. We do know, though, that protesters shut down streets in downtown Sacramento tonight, and hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators disrupted the convention, calling for a ceasefire. KCRA3's Michelle Van Doer is now live in downtown Sacramento at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center, which we now know, Michelle, is on lockdown. It looks like you're standing outside at this point. So what's going on at this point? What can you see?
Well, good evening, Brittany. Yes, that's right. We are on the west side of the convention center, and this is where I guess what you might call a breach happened here this evening. As you said, all afternoon there have been protesters here interrupting candidates, interrupting the proceedings taking place here. The protests spilled out into the street, went into a local by Memorial Auditorium, and it's been going all night. And then a few hours ago, the protesters came here to the convention center, came inside, and went up to the upstairs. I'm told there was about 200 protesters that were inside and caused some concern. They performed another sit-in like they did earlier today. And so tonight, I'm told through these proceedings, like Saturday night, they say is the best night for networking. They're getting the voting done. They have their caucuses here. The young Democrats are here. A lot of people just talking about the issues and getting their platform set. I want to bring in Basim right here. He is a delegate. And you were here tonight, Basim, and tell us what you were telling me earlier. You're saying you've been in these political proceedings many times and you've never seen anything like this.
Thank you for the opportunity. And yes, we always come in peace. We come to have a great time. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm no stranger to these conventions. I've been a national delegate on a national platform, both for President Obama and Bernie Sanders, and I've been attending state conventions since 2010, 2011. And it's always about social, talking about issues, endorsing those who are running on the national stage. And we have 3 heavyweight candidates that are vying for the late, great Dianne Feinstein seat. And, you know, when I drove up here from San Francisco up to Sacramento for the weekend, you know, you heard that there's going to be, you know, some peace rallies outside, but this was really unreal. But the entire fact, we've got to understand that no one ever got out of hand. This was a peaceful rally for peaceful solutions, that you had a lot of people of race and creed. And, you know, I'm a Palestinian Christian, and I looked at what happened to the 3rd oldest church in Gaza that was annihilated. So I think a lot of people came for purpose of peace and rally in solidarity. It wasn't so much I'm Palestinian, you're Jewish, I'm anti. No Semitism. It was all about cultures and young demographics with old demographics trying to come together and say, please, to our elected officials, cease fire. Enough of seeing nearly 6,000 or more children dying, doctors and families, innocent children. I don't like what happened in Israel, and I sure don't like of what's happened in Gaza. So we, as Senator Bernie Sanders has always said, Israel and Palestine deserve to live both together equally and happy. None of this should have happened.
Let me get you back to the business of what is supposed to be going on this weekend. So will the voting still take place? Will you get your endorsements done? I mean, is this going to shut this down the entire weekend? Will you be able to do your business?
Typically, Saturday is supposed to be, and this was, you know, you have 3 great candidates in Barbara Lee and Congressman Barbara Lee and Congresswoman Katie Porter and Congressman Adam Schiff, who were all banking on potentially getting the endorsement and moving forward in the next year's election. And Sunday usually is everyone usually clears out because the business of the convention is usually over by Saturday night with the suites and the general sessions and voting. That there might be some resolutions the next day, but that is a very great question because everything was put to halt and suspension right now. We'd all like to know as elected delegates and people that work really hard to get to this, and it's you have to raise money, and this is an expensive trip for a lot of people. So a lot of us want to know what is going to happen at the end of the day between the business of the California Democratic Party. That remains to be seen.
Well, I appreciate your.
That remains to be seen. Peace. A peace rally. Oh my God. We have to cancel the event. We need safe rooms. Where's my stuffed animal? Wow. I'm so... it's like, how can you even function in this country anymore? You just have to be a robot and not feel. Look at this. His prayer time coincided with the boarding time, and the Muslims started praying on the plane, and the plane couldn't take off.
If they come and ask him, he will leave straight away.
Unbelievable.
I know. If they come and ask him, he will leave straight away.
Unbelievable.
Come on, man. Like a plane hasn't taken off with Muslims at prayer time? Ever? This is the first time? And they're holding up this for the guy to pray? Okay. Yeah. British police seem to have a lot of trouble with cultural enrichers. Maybe it would be better to deploy the army. He's got to have some... Not sure what he's got in his hand, but he clearly has a weapon. Otherwise, I don't think the police would be acting like this. But, yeah, it's so... I mean, aren't you happy that we have so many illegal migrants coming in, to all of our countries and enriching the culture? There's so many videos like this. So many videos on Twitter just like this. Worse, actually. A whole lot worse. What is this? Okay. Oh. Tacoma tenants' rights measure passes with fewer than 400 votes. Listen to this. Landlords would have to give 2 notices to tenants before raising rent and at least 6 months' notice of pending increases. This was initiative measure number 1. So this is their answer to the skyrocketing rents. But there's more. This is what passed in Tacoma. Okay, so you have to give 2 notices to tenants before raising rent, and at least 6 months' notice of pending increases. Which, 2 notices before raising rent, 6 months' notice of pending increases. All right. At any time after a 180-day notice of rent increase of 5% or more, a tenant can request relocation assistance equal to up to 3 months of rent, depending on the amount of the increase. Landlords must provide relocation assistance within 30 days of receiving the request. The measure would also prohibit landlords from evicting people during cold weather or during the school year if a tenant is a student. And I'm sure if the tenant has children who are in school. So that's the only time that you could conceivably evict a tenant is depending on, I don't know what the school year calendar is in Washington, but maybe the 6 weeks of summer vacation. Not only are tenants being destroyed with all of the skyrocketing rents, so are landlords. This paves the way for investment firms to come on in like, BlackRock and, what's the other black that's scooping up single homes? Can't remember. This really sure does tighten the noose on landlords, the small landlords. Another rent protection measure in Bellingham set to pass. Under that initiative, landlords have to give 120 days notice for rent increases. Landlords also have to cover some relocation expenses if they raise the rent by 8% or more. Blackstone, thank you. Rock, Waterstone, yeah, thank you. So, and this, real estate homeowners in Florida, DeSantis drops a bombshell. It's getting hard for everyone. Yeah, the middle class. Yeah, even the upper middle class. It's getting hard for everyone. The silent depression that we are living.
The nightmare in Florida homeowners insurance is the #1 biggest domino, the biggest shoe to drop, if you will, to cause entire chaos through the Florida housing market. And this is a big time problem. I mean, if you have insurance now, you might be sitting back scratching your head saying, hey, what's the big deal? So I'm paying $8,000 a year for insurance and it used to be $2,000. I'm okay.
This is hideous. I'm paying $1,000 a month for increases to insurance. We're like, okay, we just might have to leave.
This was her insurance premium with Olympus 7 years ago, $1,897. It then went to $2,500 in 2020, more than $4,500 last year, and this year, $9,031.
Folks, it is an epic problem. It is forcing people out of their homes. What I am noticing now is that in Florida, our inventory levels are going up. They're much higher now than they've been at any point in this last 3 to 4 year run up. And I have to believe that part of the problem is that a lot of people just cannot afford to hold on to their homes any longer. But folks,
9,000. And that's just for home insurance. I'll put the link in the chat. You can watch the entire video. But yeah, the collapse. A whole lot of people, because they're living in their bubble and they're fine, and they don't realize that so many people are just boom, 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 right around them all over. collapsing, financially, going off the cliff. But they love their little bubble because it makes them feel comfortable. All right. Spanish Prime Minister. Why? This seems to be disorganized, but maybe not. Well, a lot's going on in Spain. So, the Spanish Prime Minister, Sanchez, announced his government's decision to recognize the state of Palestine. And we're going to get to what's happening. Israel, Gaza, West Bank. I'm scared for Israelis and Jews. Like, we know our biggest enemy. Our biggest enemies are government officials. Not just in Washington, D.C. Local, state, federal. Those are our biggest enemies. Well, actually, our biggest enemies. We're surrounded by friends, family, neighbors, community members who don't want to know what's going on, so they don't do a flippin' thing. Oh, and the white crowd, a whole lot of them, don't want to do a flipping thing. Those are our enemies. So we've got a lot of enemies that we are facing. But what Israel is doing right now, the Zionist government, the IDF, is setting up Jews and Israelis all over the world, not just in Israel, for the world to have a very loud hatred for them. Oh, talk about collective punishment. The collective punishment we know Americans are getting already, but we're going to be getting an awful lot more. So are Israelis. So all of these people who are, gung-ho, and you have no idea what's coming. No idea what's coming to you. So he speaks in Spanish. Madrid, millions of Spanish take to the streets, and the army consider a coup. Well, that's a poor. It's not the army. The former military have written a letter, anonymously, calling for a coup, the removal of this guy, who apparently made a deal with Catalonia. That, well, we'll get to that in a moment. But look at how many people turn out. Wow. Europeans put Americans to shame in terms of just getting out on the street when they're upset about something. But a lot of tweets on Twitter, I can't call it X, a lot of tweets on X, on Twitter have been saying that this is Spaniards who are anti-government and anti-socialist. So, biggest protest in Spain against Catalan amnesty law draws 170,000. I was trying to understand what was going on. Retired Spanish military officers call for coup against Prime Minister. The call to action stems from the Prime Minister's contentious amnesty agreement with Catalan separatists, a deal aimed at maintaining Sanchez's grip on power. The anonymous signatories argue that the amnesty undermines the rule of law, effectively erasing criminal activities tied to the 2017 illegal independence referendum orchestrated by Catalan separatists. So, there's Geez, corruption in every government? Really? Yet another leftist journalist arrested on child pornography charges. What? There's an awful lot of journalists who are just being arrested for pornography. And to the life of me, I can't wrap my head around an adult who could harm a child, who could harm any vulnerable sentient being. That's an evil that how do you wrap your head around it? How could you possibly understand it? I do know that an awful lot of people who have been abused as children go on to abuse children when they are adults. What makes the difference between those of us who have been abused and go on and don't abuse, in fact, kind of go to the opposite, where you want to protect everybody, and yeah, you'd fly into a rage if you see an adult abusing children. I don't know. I don't know what makes the difference. Perhaps the God, the internal God in us. In the last 12 months alone, 2 senior producers for ABC and CNN were sentenced to prison for child porn. We're starting to sense a trend. Slade Sommer, 44 years old, the former managing editor of CNN's now defunct Be Me video sharing app, and until a month ago, editor-in-chief of the left-leaning video-driven news site, The Recount, was freed on a $100,000 bail after he was charged in a Massachusetts court with possessing and disseminating hundreds of child pornography images and videos. Ugh. Descriptions of the materials in question, horrific. And I can't even read the descriptions. The fuck is wrong with people? Berkshire County. I lived in the Berkshires. And yeah, there's an awful lot of sick people all over. All over. And what is bird flu? Bird flu. Bird flu is disseminating our food supply. 1.2 million chickens will be slaughtered at an Iowa farm where bird flu was found. An additional slaughtering that comes on the heels of Iowa having killed more than 17 million birds since the outbreak. And that outbreak, I believe, was just last year. My God. Just the latest one in the outbreak that began early last year and has prompted officials to kill a total of nearly 63 million birds. 1 million earlier this week. 1 million chickens killed in Minnesota. God. Anytime a case of bird flu is found, the entire flock is killed. Nebraska comes in next with more than 6.7 million birds killed. Colorado then 6.26 million. Minnesota 5.6 million. All they have to do is suspect, and then they kill him off. Okay. What is this? This is Jews have been safer with Muslims than Christians throughout history. Where is it? Why did it jump to this? What's going on? Oh my God, I don't even know how to handle YouTube. I will link below, and you can listen to this interview. For the Christians, if you have the courage to listen. I will link also below to this Glenn Greenwald video on Rumble. Updates on Glenn's homeless run dog shelter. Yeah. That's Glenn Greenwald. So, very, very impressed with some people. Yeah. Wish I had the money to do something like that. So, I will also link below to this video. That was sent to me by a subscriber, and if you guys have not seen any of Herbs Plus Beadworks' videos, you might want to check them out. Protecting yourself against frequencies and nano. Well, it might work for you. But there's no one protection. And what I have learned is, listening to the experts who actually worked in the field of microwaves and microwave, the electronic weaponry. So there's lead. Lead can block frequencies. Lead. So buy some lead and put it all over your house and seal it. Unfortunately, the technology is so advanced now that, and I will say this, I think an awful lot of people, and I've throughout the years, I've spoken to subscribers, emailed with subscribers, I've been in witnessing their lives, doing things to counter all of the electromagnetic frequencies, and they are absolutely 100% sure that this works. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is. And then 2 weeks later, it's not working. It stops working. I think a lot of people get a placebo effect, which is fine. Whatever gets you to be feeling better, good on you. So, I've had shungite. I've done so much. And actually the best that I was all of the physical exercise that I was doing in South Carolina. Getting out and laughing with people helped a lot. But yeah. So what might work for you may not work for another. All right? That's very important to know. And every individual is different. So, okay. Now, why do I have this article here? Well, did I pull it up when I lost it on the other window? No, I didn't. So, let me just read a little bit, but I will put Caitlin's article link in the chat. You can read the full video article, but I think most of you will know what it's about. But yeah, they're just insulting our intelligence at this point. Yeah. But it's not just at this point. They've been insulting our intelligence for my lifetime. That magic bullet that took out JFK and hit the senator and Americans. Healthcare, please. U.S. government. Sorry, did you say billions of dollars for ethnic cleansing in the Middle East? Americans. No. Healthcare. U.S. government. All right, you drive a hard bargain, but here's billions of dollars for ethnic cleansing in the Middle East. And here's a tip. The side that keeps having to come up with justifications and explanations for why it's fine and normal for them to be killing thousands of children and perpetrating ethnic cleansing is probably not the side that's in the right. I used to think it was bad for Israel to be massacring children by the thousands and bombing hospitals and shooting quadriplegics and children in hospital beds. But then Israel's president waved an Arabic translation of Mein Kampf in front of a camera, so now I think it's good. That's right. Oh my God. In some Hamas headquarters or command center. No, wait, no. It was just found on in a Hamas soldier's room. Mein Kampf. That means they were looking for another Holocaust. But could it have been planted there? If Israel's position were based on truth and morality, it wouldn't be churning out a non-stop deluge of obvious lies. No one believes anything Israel says anymore. You either know Israel lies constantly, or you know it but pretend you don't know it. You know how narcissists will do the most fucked up shit, and if anyone calls them out, they act all wounded and victimized, like, oh, what, I'm the bad guy now? That's Israel and its supporters. Anyone who criticizes U.S.-sponsored military violence gets accused of supporting the other side by supporters of that military violence. If you opposed the Iraq invasion, you were a Saddam supporter. If you criticize U.S. proxy warfare in Ukraine, you're a Putin lover. The argument is that criticizing the actions of the world's most powerful war machine means you support the side opposing that war machine. And because you're a treasonous monster who supports the other side, that means your criticisms should not be listened to. This happens with literally every single high-profile act of U.S. interventionism. Literally every single one, without a single solitary exception. What this means, in effect, is that all criticism of the world's most powerful war machine is considered unacceptable and gets stomped down. Those who are calling you a Hamas lover and a terrorist sympathizer today are telling you that nobody should ever criticize any U.S.-sponsored act of military aggression because they're using the exact same tactic that is literally always used to stomp out all U.S.-sponsored acts of military aggression. What they're really saying when they call you a Hamas supporter, shut up, get canceled, you get down the memory hole. We don't want to hear from you anymore. Don't people know this at this point? Don't they realize this? For the very, very, very young, I understand. But there's still so many baby boomers who don't get it, don't want to get it. Whatever the agenda is of government, wherever that government is, if you speak a narrative that's different from the official narrative, that's enough for you to be smeared, to have your reputation destroyed, to lose a job, to be silenced, censored. And people still think that they live in a free country. That's what's amazing. That's pretty frightening, actually. How could they? How could they? How dare you? So, close to a deal. We're close to a deal. U.S. close to deal with Israel and Hamas to pause conflict and free some hostages. Wow. Close to a U.S. brokered deal. To free dozens of women and children in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. Didn't Hillary Clinton say any pause or ceasefire will give Hamas time to strengthen? That's why ceasefire or pause should not take place? Okay, well, it's being talked about. The release, which could begin within the next several days, barring last-minute hitches, could lead to the first sustained pause in conflict. A fucking pause. 5 days. There you go. Then we start killing you again. Bring in some medical supplies, bring in some water, bring in some fuel. But after 5 days, we're going to start killing you again. Enjoy these 5 days. How sick. So, Abby Martin, on top of massacring hundreds of sheltering Palestinians at a school last night, Israeli forces also bombed multiple residential buildings, killing hundreds more. Death toll could be 1,000 overnight, and it's barely made any news. 1,000 overnight. So, listen to this. This was, wow, man. You want to talk? I am paid to say these things. I am paid to ask these things. I am paid to try to force you into a corner to say Israel good, Hamas bad.
Well, a top United Nations expert says the international community is epically failing in its response to the war between Israel and Hamas. Joining us live now is the United Nations Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Palestinian Territory, Francesca Albanese. Francesca, thanks for your time this morning. There is a few points I just want to ask you about your speech yesterday. You linked Israel with potential genocide, which is a highly inflammatory allegation. What is your legal basis for such a claim?
Hi, thanks for having me. In international law, genocide is the intent to destroy a group, a national, racial, ethnic, or religious group in whole or in part, and can be committed when there are acts of killing of people of the group or creating living conditions that make life of this group impossible or creating significant physical and mental harm to the people of this group, which is precisely what is happening in the Gaza Strip, where 11,000 people have been already killed. 5,000, almost 5,000 of them are children, and there are 3,000 people under the rubble as we speak.
Right.
And the living conditions in Gaza are unlivable. Even if facilities cease now,
I
it
get
will
that.
be difficult to
I
live
get
there.
that. Sorry to interrupt you. I do get that. I'm just short for time. But just on this position of genocide, certainly there is intent to destroy Hamas, but there is none to physically destroy a whole national, racial, ethnic, or religious group, which is, as you pointed out, the UN definition of genocide.
I respectfully dissent, because not only the cries and the statements that have been made by Israeli political and military leaders and supported by significant groups in the society are not to eradicate or destroy Hamas military capacity, are to flatten Gaza, to erase Gaza, to wipe out Gaza. And this is not
That's not what they're
just
saying.
Gaza's
That's not
military
the leadership is not saying that.
Well, yes, because one military leader says our goal is for destruction, not accuracy. I don't know if we read the same things, but
the destruction of Hamas.
No, this is you've got to listen to this. This is outright lying, because a news reporter for sure has heard Netanyahu, has heard Gallant, the defense minister, call them inhuman animals, not Hamas, the Palestinians, mowing the lawn. We're going to flatten Gaza, make it into a parking lot. This news reporter never heard those terms? He insists that Israeli government officials have only been referring to Hamas. It is truly, did you see how shocked she was? Like, are you kidding me? Am I actually listening to this? Yeah, we all are.
Look, I mean, no, because again, even members of the parliaments have been calling to flatten Gaza, to erase Gaza. It's not about Hamas military. But this is the incitement, this is the intent, which is critical. At the same time, what's happening on the ground is that almost 50% of the civilian infrastructure has been either destroyed or severely damaged and cannot be used to restore civil life. And 11,000 people, 1 out of 200 people in Gaza, have already been killed. So, I mean,
Sure.
I don't want it to be reduced to semantics. These are people who deserve to live as much as others.
It's just a big term. Genocide is a big term, but we've got to move on. Is Hamas guilty of war crimes?
No, just one precision, because as you say, it's very, it's an important and very heavy, very loaded claim. Together with other special rapporteurs, I've warned against the risk of genocide for weeks now, because there is an obligation to prevent genocide in international community, and nothing has moved.
Is Hamas guilty of war crimes?
Of course. There is no question about that. Hamas has committed war crimes the moment it killed civilians, it targeted civilians, and it took civilian hostages. These are undisputable war crimes.
Yes. So, I mean, there is a saying, you know, you get punched in the nose, you're not going to give a free lunch. So does Hamas get what's coming?
She's having a really hard time, like, listening to this guy. So was I when I first heard him. I couldn't believe, I can't believe what this Sky News. Oh, what a rag. What a rag reporter. Disgusting.
Again, this is not against Hamas. Those who are paying now, and these are the same ones
But it is
who have
against
been
Hamas.
paying for the 5 previous wars.
Hamas started this whole
It's
thing by
targeting-
launching the terror attack, as you just pointed out, was a war crime. So now it's getting its response, which Israel is entitled to.
What you're saying is very dangerous, because the people in Gaza had suffered 5 wars before this one, which had killed thousands of people, including 1,025 children. Does it mean that violence justifies violence? I strongly oppose that.
Okay,
no,
so Israel
nothing
just lets it
justifies
happen,
the
does it?
targeting of civilians. Excuse me?
So Israel just lets it happen and doesn't respond?
But of course not. Of course not. But there are responses that needs to be given in line with international law, and these responses concern law enforcement and law and order. I'm not saying that Israel didn't have to do anything, but again, we are talking of a government which until a couple of months ago was saying, or 3 months ago was saying, that Hamas was an asset and the Palestinian Authority was a liability. This was a disaster in the making, and we.
Look, did I put the link in? Wow. You can go to Sky News and put in the title, which is United Nations official clashes with Sky News host over Israel's intentions in Middle East conflict. He just continues, you know, and I don't think she'll ever be interviewed by that guy again. Absolutely reprehensible, these questions. Wow. All right. So these were all of the videos from the window that I inadvertently clicked off 10 minutes before going live, so I just pulled them up from my history channel. History list. Pro-Palestine protesters accused of being blinded by hate. This is on Kim Iverson's. Why am I not subscribed? Okay. You know, I don't like bullshit. I don't. I get really exhausted with bullshit. No real truthful conversation, just bullshit, you know. Blinded by hate. And I saw some videos again today with people who are attacking the far leftists who have been indoctrinated because they're protesting, you know, Israel killing all of these children and women and elderly and hospital patients and decimating the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Don't leave that out. Claiming they're Maoists, they're Marxists. They're calling for peace. They're calling for a ceasefire. Marxists, Mao, they loved killing people. But these are people that I thought actually had a brain, and I guess they don't. Well, I don't understand. I don't understand this life.
People are saying that the pro-Palestinians are the hateful ones, that they're the ones who are anti-Semitic. They're definitely anti-Israel, or they're at least calling out and against what Israel is doing. They might be against Israel as a country, certainly against Israel and their behavior. But this man is yelling at pro-Palestinian protesters, saying that they are blinded by hate. He's very hateful when he yells at them. And he's actually saying that what they're doing is fashionable, that they're just following trends. And that's why they're actually out there protesting. Watch this.
These women here, go to Gaza. You want to go talk in Gaza? These women, they can't talk in Gaza. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's become fashion. It's fashion. It's fashion, this bullshit. It's fashionable. Yes. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, does it? How many bombs? France, in Syria, here, London. All it is an excuse to hate Jews. It's us. The problem's us, innit? It's us. You think tomorrow, if there was no Israel, this problem would be solved? They kill each other. What, genocide? We're the worst that committed genocide. The population has tripled in the last 10 years. Genocide. These people they're idiots. They're idiots blind by hate.
It's really fascinating to me, this conflation between Jews and Israel. Certainly this man, he sounded like he was Jewish because he kept saying us, we're the problem. And he's saying you people just hate Jews. And protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters, or those who are demonstrating against the treatment of Palestinians at the hands of Israel, are protesting a foreign government. This is a foreign Middle Eastern government. Most people have never even traveled over there. Most Jews do not live there. And yet there's this conflation that if you criticize Israel, you are criticizing Jews. Now, I certainly don't feel that way about Vietnam. If you criticize the Vietnamese government, the communist Vietnamese government, which I have many criticisms of, I'm not called a self-hating Vietnamese person. I'm not, I don't accuse people who criticize Vietnam, for example, the government, of being anti-Vietnamese and hating Vietnamese people and then saying, I don't feel safe in this country because you are criticizing the Vietnamese, or even calling for, or even wishing that the war lasted longer. Perhaps. Maybe you're the person that wishes the Vietnam War went on longer, or somebody who championed the Vietnam War. And the conflation to then say, well, then you must just hate Vietnamese people, or, that when you criticize Vietnam, you're criticizing me. This conflation is very bizarre. Certainly, China, many people are criticizing China. And then in the same breath, they say, yes, I criticize China, but I am not against Chinese people. It's not about the people, it's about the country. And the very same people, often conservatives, who are the ones criticizing China and then saying, I don't hate Chinese people, I just don't like the government of China. The Chinese people are great. China is the problem. Those very same conservatives are saying, if you criticize Israel, you're criticizing all Jews. So the hypocrisy there is very fascinating. And the conflation actually is causing more anti-Semitism. If you are a person like this gentleman there who's yelling at all these protesters saying, you're blaming me, no one was blaming him. He's British, living in the UK, clearly. Maybe he's got Israeli citizenship. I don't know. He sounded British with his accent. And he's saying, you criticizing Israel, a foreign government, is you criticizing me. If he's taking ownership of Israel, sounds like he's taking ownership of Israel in a way, then that will breed anti-Semitism. So the conflation itself is the problem. This is a foreign government. Same thing with the American government. Many of us criticize the American government. Many of us criticize the endless wars that the United States engages in. Are we self-hating Americans? Some would say so. Yeah, certainly that criticism's out there. You hate the country. You hate America. If you hate it, then get out. We should be able to criticize our government. Our government does not make the best choices. Those same people who say, get out if you don't like our country, are also the same people saying, oh, those elites, those establishment elites, they're running our government. They're rich. They're trying to censor us now. They're trying to call us terrorists after January 6th. Again, that hypocrisy. We've got to try to stay consistent with our thoughts and our lines of reasoning.
Consistency. Yeah. Consistency with reasoning. Consistency across the board. And suddenly an awful lot who were, very right there, talking about all of the BLM protests and transgender agenda and even climate change. Ow! That was little one who just fell but grabbed onto my leg. Meow. So, and look, I've faced it with my friends who were, you don't go there, you do not discuss, the Palestinians, the whole issue, for decades. Now, actually, an awful lot of Jews have opened the space for that conversation, and I want to thank each and every one of them. But the conflating, you criticize a government and that means you're anti-Semitic and you hate Jews. I'm sorry, that kind of reasoning is not reasoning. It's emotion gone wild. There is no reasoning in that. And this was a very good interview. This is Abby Martin, who's interviewing a woman who apparently comes from a very well-known Palestinian family. I've never heard of them, but let's listen just to a few minutes. I put the link in the chat.
To hear that there are people who are chanting for freedom, that are saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And there are literally people who are saying, kill them all, murder all of them, level it, take them all out. And those two things are being equated to each other. One is calling for freedom of all people, for equality and for democracy. And the other is literally calling for genocide. And we're having to fight those two battles at the same time. I've never understood or fathomed how those two things could even, no one's calling out the genocidal speak, but everyone is calling out the conversation about freedom.
Alana, thank you so much for coming on the Empire Files. It's really great to talk to you. Your family is probably the most well-known Palestinian family in the world. Your sisters, Gigi and Bella, are supermodels, very well-known. Your dad is a real estate mogul. You, your sister Marielle, and your brother Anwar are all fashion icons. There is so much pressure on your family to stay silent about what Israel is doing, but you have been very vocal. You've been posting almost daily about the genocide going on in Gaza. And Alana, you've never done an interview about this. And so I really appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate you going on my platform to talk to me.
I mean, I appreciate you, Abby. I think I was a fan of yours in a lot of ways. How outspoken you were about Palestine, all the advocacy that you've done, the documentaries, all the interviews that you've done. It was inspirational for me, to be totally honest. And seeing a lot of the things that you did, and not just because we've become friends and because I'm here and talking to you, truly, I know that there are people who've said to me the way that I spoke out has made them feel more comfortable about their advocacy, and you did that for me. So I appreciate you, and I'm glad to be here.
That's amazing. I'm incredibly honored to hear that. I guess, Alana, let's just start by talking about how you've been feeling over the course of the last couple weeks, ever since October 7th?
Truthfully, I mean, even now, I just want to cry all the time. God, I didn't think I was going to start crying already.
It's so hard.
I just want to cry.
Yeah.
I think it's a horrible, I want to be strong. I am strong. I think, my family is really strong. I come from a very strong stock. I'm Palestinian and Irish. So fighting for freedom is literally coursing through my blood. And I think I get a lot of it from both sides of my family. I got this amazing power from being a Palestinian. And I also have this kind of broad and beautiful lineage of speaking towards truth to power and liberation from my Irish side as well. So I think since October 7th, all I've really felt like doing was just speaking. It's been this mixture of grief and beauty in that I feel on a constant basis, I've never seen anything more horrific than what's gone on since October 7th. But at the same time, I've also never seen more beautiful solidarity for Palestinian people. And it has been amazing to see. And I'm so grateful and thankful that it hasn't just been falling on deaf ears as it has for the last 75 years.
So, Jews all over the world are affected by what's going on. So are Palestinians all over the world. So, I'm going to put the link in again. Well worth a listen, well worth circulating. So, I came across, is it this video? Yes. Now, the United Nations has programs in Gaza teaching children to essentially hate Jews. But the Israelis do the same thing. Can't children just grow up in a healthy environment? You know, adults, man, are so sick and twisted, and they just twist children, exploit them, abuse them. As far as I'm concerned, what you're about to listen to, these Israeli children singing this song, this is pure abuse by adults. Before I start, it was Max Blumenthal who posted this. And frankly, if it wasn't Max, I would have thought somebody made this up. That this has to be not right.
לא יהיה שם
When I first watched it, I thought of Hitler, the Hitler Youth. So, okay, they'll become adults. Maybe a few of them will come out of their indoctrination. To be fair, you should also show the other side doing this. Well, show me the videos where the other side is doing this. I've read articles and shown documents from the United Nations, their educational program. Teaching children to hate. Wow. And this. I've shown this before and I'm going to show it again. Yeah. Christians, a whole lot, are, sorry, way gone.
Parking lot by this time next week.
Gaza will be a parking lot by this time next week. Wow. Oh, God. Yeah, just what Christ wants, right? Oh, my God. What a sick and twisted world. I'll post a link to this if you want to listen to this guy. I've listened to him before. I can't listen to him again. Yeah. Sure does have Christ's heart and mind, right? Woof. Why don't I support Israel? This is a Jewish woman.
I've not been a supporter of Israel since 2014, and one of the big reasons why is when I was in Israel, it is so incredibly just suffocating how much propaganda there is. And here's the thing, I'm from America, there's so much propaganda within that, but propaganda for Israel is at the core of its being. I was there for Birthright, and Birthright is 100% a propaganda trip to tour of just propaganda. Because here's the thing, you really have to think, please, anybody, any other Jewish person who was on a Birthright trip, think about, why was anybody paying for a free vacation for you? Because we love the Jews? No. Or because you're American and Israelis need Americans to side with you. So regardless, there's so much propaganda in Israel that it seemed overwhelming. Anybody that I would go up to would be like, welcome home, right? And it's so lovely, right? If you're very lost in the world, it feels so good. It feels so good until you started to hear how they were talking about Arabs. And I'm going to say Arabs as a whole. I'm not going Palestinians, obviously, but I am saying at the deep root of how much hate there is and how much spinning there is. Like, why does nobody leave us alone? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Why won't people leave you alone? You're on their land.
So Israel, which is it? Evacuate north, evacuate south. Oh, it depends on the mood on the day. It depends where you can conjure up a Hamas terrorist hiding place. This is just relentless. It just is relentless. And the fact that the West continues, UK in particular, to say no ceasefire, no humanitarian aid. What a disgrace you are. And well done, the Labour MPs who have chosen to resign rather than stand with Keir Starmer, who is a twat.
Yeah.
So
Where
Israel.
do they go? I said that last night. You know, the Israelis were dropping their leaflets telling people to evacuate from southern Gaza, but they had already told them in the north to evacuate to the south. Now, where the hell are you supposed to go? Back to the north? Marion Ingram, Holocaust survivor.
As someone who has experienced all of the terrors that Gazans are experiencing, and even the horrific attacks in Israel by Hamas, but Hamas's attack on Israel does not justify the slaughter of women and children, especially children. I was a child of war. I have experienced all of these things. I've also known for a fact that what Israel is doing will not end this conflict. It will only exacerbate it. It will increase resistance to anything. I think that Biden needs to defund all of the money that is given to Israel. I think he should not only call for a ceasefire, I think he needs to start thinking about peace.
Well, how do you think about peace when you're all about money? Right?
I'm lighting my Shabbat candles tonight and taking a moment to pray for Palestinian liberation. Not in spite of being a Jew, but because I am a Jew. We need to stand up and say this genocide in Gaza cannot happen in our name. Fighting for the justice and liberation of everyone makes marginalized and colonized groups around the world safer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chad likner shel Shabbat. It is a privilege to be able to take this moment of peace tonight.
I thank every Jew, every Israeli for speaking out, because you have finally broke the wall to allow all of us to speak out. No, it's not anti-Semitism. I don't see Zionism as related to Judaism. They're two very separate things. So, I also don't separate the United States and Israel. So, whether or not that pause will actually come to pass for 5 days, and then what? We're going to watch Israel kill off more? Mow more of the lawn. The parking lot has not been a success yet. They're pushing countries to literally back away from Israel, except for the United States. There's a lot of MPs, well, I can't say a lot, but there are MPs speaking up in Canada, in the UK, and they are against what's happening. They're calling for a ceasefire. More and more countries, in fact, the president of Malaysia, sitting right next to Secretary Blinken, had a few words for Blinken. Let me see if I can find that. Here. Atrocities inflicted on the Palestinians. It doesn't concern their sense of justice and compassion. Expressively, how wonderful it is if we are steadfast in upholding justice for these lost Palestinian lives. And I said to you last night, I remember your role as the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations of the caucus. Your finding against my persecution and the time I was in prison. The principles of justice and human rights. Stop these atrocities. Stop the killings of women and children now, because every day means more babies will be killed. And then Israel will pursue the final solution. I'm saying this because it's important for AIPAC. For this, this was at the AIPAC. I don't know. Maybe he was zoomed in, or Biden was zoomed in, whatever. But it was just the conference in San Francisco that just passed. So he goes on to say, for this sort of minimum understanding and collaboration, of trust among member countries, and if we fail, but not entirely, if we committed to the AIPAC document, the issue of Ukraine and Palestine, the whole world will see the choking. It's important for us as the international community to heal and avoid this problem from taking place. Mr. Chairman, I rest my case and wait for your continued leadership in 2024. I've also mentioned to the President of Peru to make sure these concerns are heard as we are one in this issue. A lot of countries are backing away from Israel. So, are we going to be seeing the official World War III break out? If Israel doesn't stop this, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Iran-backed Hezbollah, the involvement of countries. France is sending over a ship of medical supplies to Palestine while the U.S. warships are in the Mediterranean. So we're seeing an awful lot of conflict, and it's got to be resolved. Otherwise, it could spin further out of control. That may very well be what takes place. So anyway, I thank you for all of your showing up. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Live honestly, speak honestly, and do what is right. All of what you think of that's right, you gotta do it. You gotta do what's right. So, on that note, I say good night and good luck. Ciao, guys.